acting as my representative at the celebration of the independence of our country.
Princess Alexandra was also in Kaduna, capital of northern Nigeria, and was received by the governor, his wife, and the Sardaunan. The representative of the Queen of England, Princess Alexandra, on the visit to northern Nigeria, was also accompanied by the Sardaunan to the ancient town of Bida. Princess Alexandra was also treated to a colorful durbar in Sokoto. As the first and only premier of northern region, the late Sardaunan Sir Ahmadu Bello's legacies will forever linger in the minds of the people. He has left his mark in the sands of time in areas such as Nigeria's political development, traditional leadership, civil service, development strategy, religious issues, and consolidation of community. Other areas include communications and agricultural schemes, industries, and infrastructure.
Yes, he worked for the people, in particular in the field of education, for example. When Sardaunan became the premier, there are only 2 secondary schools in the entire north. The traditional Kaduna College, now Balewa, as I said earlier, and the Kashi College, which was opened a couple of years ago, a couple of years before independence. These were the only 2 secondary schools in the entire north region. But in 7 years, from 1959 to 1966, he established secondary schools in all the 13 provinces of the north. Each province had either a technical school or a college of technology, and he also built teachers' colleges, and above all, he was able to establish a university, Ahmadu Bello University in Zaria, all in 7 years. So then I realized that the level of development of a nation is the level of its education. And he paid attention to education. He was spending about 40% of his budget on education in those days. He and Awolowo paid a lot of attention to education, because Awolowo was spending about 50% of his budget on education. They were able to achieve a lot. Again, because he was concerned about the welfare of the people, a good leader. He warned his ministers and all those in the party to concentrate on their work. He believed in the division of responsibilities. Some people are destined to be rulers, some are destined to be businessmen, some are destined to be teachers, some are destined to be beggars, but all of us need one another. We are complementary to one another. But we should stick to our own sphere of responsibility. Sardaunan religiously believed in that, because he used to tell us, you cannot run and at the same time be scratching your buttocks. You cannot do 2 things at the same time. Said any of my ministers that is interested in business should resign, and I will encourage him. But you can't be a minister and a businessman at the same time. Businessmen spent their money and voted us into power so that we might protect and promote their interest. It would be it would be unfair and unjust for us to go into their field. So Sardaunan never encouraged any of his people to go into business. Said it was not their business to be in business, Their business was to administer, to rule. And that was why they were elected, to look after the people, protect and promote their interests. Now, as a result of that, any new enterprise that was brought from abroad or any new industrialist that came into the north to establish industries, he would inquire, he would try to find out the people that were in that particular area and invite them and join them with these foreign partners. The question of what you would get or how much you would bring did not arise. All that he would tell the people, don't let us down. Sardauna, therefore, during that period of time, 7 years, established the Northern NNDC to look after the farmers.
The Sardauna consolidated the North. The secret of Sardauna's power was that he was democratic. He allowed subordinates to take decisions and supported them. Within the traditional gift-giving sector, the generosity of the Sardauna was legendary and financed from various sources, but not least from bank drafts. At his death, the military leaders who checked on his personal account were surprised at his lack of assets and in fact the size of the drafts. Sardauna's sense of public probity extends to his willingness to go through proper channels in handling all issues. Sir Ahmadu Bello was a nationalist with a difference. He was a federalist and saw federalism as the key to large-scale unions in Africa and elsewhere. Within the national context, Sir Ahmadu Bello was insistent. Let us not forget our differences. Let us understand our differences, and in so doing, build unity in our country. A great man indeed, Sir Ahmadu Bello, Sardauna of Sokoto and Premier of Northern Nigeria. Death came knocking for this great man of all times, Sir Ahmadu Bello, Sardauna of Sokoto, first and only Premier of Northern Nigeria, with the attack on his residence by dissident soldiers on the 15th of January 1966. The late singer Musa Dankwairo captured the mood in his hit song after the death of the Sardauna, in which he sang and lamented, "It is better to die in honor than be disgraced." Ahmadu is beyond being looked down upon. No one can look down on him. A fixed pole is difficult to uproot. And so ended an unforgettable era. The Sardauna's early experience in life was based on simplicity rather than pomp. He appeared to have had no fear of the unknown and was quite willing to try new things, which may be related to an enormous amount of self-confidence which was apparent from early years. The quality of generosity which is valued in our culture was a distinguished feature of Sir Ahmadu Bello even at a young age. What he has, he shares with others. Also worth mentioning is that under the direction of the Sardauna, the Northern Civil Service had an esprit de corps which was quite distinctive. They shared certain skills, including high levels of proficiency in administrative ability. They shared a code of ethics which emphasized their roles as providing the infrastructure for government. The civil servants then shared a common work ethic and the willingness to take on assignments without any strings attached. Indeed, under the influence of the Sardauna, the civil service enjoyed accelerated training programs and university degree programs, particularly by the third-generation civil servants.
So, during my stay with the Honorable Premier, I understood him to be somebody very hard-working, conscientious, and patriotic. So we used to start very early in the morning and close late at night. I used to leave my house very early, about 6, 7 o'clock in the morning. By the time I got to his room, I used to find him on his table dealing with files which concern various ministries. So on my arrival, I used to collect all those files that he had dealt with and distribute to the ministries concerned. So it was in 63-4 up to 63-4. Then I said in 64-5 I was posted to Borno again as provincial secretary, Borno province then. Then late 64, I was posted back Women's office. And I was there 64, 65. So as I mentioned, he was somebody rather untiring. He was doing work every now and then and touring around all the provinces, and really he was somebody very interested in progress of North in particular and Nigeria in general.
Traditional values and leadership. Sir Ahmadu Bello had a dual role as a regional leader and a potential traditional leader. His legitimacy among the traditional rulers is related to his family ties to Sheikh Usman Dan Fodio. This legitimacy allowed him to undertake reforms of the traditional emirates and chiefdom systems, taking cognizance of public opinion and in consultation with stakeholders. The Sardaunan no doubt presented himself in his multiple identities as a modernizer and traditionalist, committed to change, but also preserving the best of the past by also modifying traditional institutions to suit evolving northern values. Sir Ahmadu Bello Sardaunan also had a keen sense of competition for leadership. Even at a young age, he had developed enormous self-confidence and pride in what he represented, a blend of the past and the future. He was forceful in asserting himself, and in almost every situation, he emerged as a natural leader. Underlying all this was a fearlessness which was to characterize him throughout his life. Whether facing jail during the colonial era or facing challenges, he moved ahead without wavering. In fact, he had developed toughness in politics and skills in administration, while also noting that the political culture of the traditional leaders was part of the heritage of the Sardaunan. At the Northern People's Congress NPC convention held in Jos in 1954, Sir Ahmadu Bello Sardaunan made the following statement in a speech he delivered as the new leader of the party. We will retain and strengthen all our good customs and ways of life, which we think will not interfere with our modern development, and drop all our bad customs and ways, which we believe will hamper our onward progressive march. Sir Ahmadu Bello Sardaunan of Sokoto, Premier of Northern Nigeria, Gamji or Iroko as widely known. The Northern Governors Forum, comprising governors from the 19 northern states, has initiated efforts to sustain the legacies of the late Premier. However, the present leadership of the forum, under the chief servant, Dr. Muazu Babangida Ali, OON, Talbamina, Governor of Niger State, has taken the issue to higher levels, and with the zeal and commitment being shown by the Governors Forum.
Every Nigerian child, particularly of northern extraction, may recall or might have heard the story of Nigerian independence, and particularly the effort of the leaders of the time. If you have not heard about free education in the West, and the stability and the unity of the North, and the enterprise of the East, then you have not heard the story of Nigerian independence up to the period of civil war. And for us, who are actually at a very young age, even though at a very young age, but within the period of understanding what was happening, or those of us who have come into close contact with Sardauna of Sokoto, will now appreciate the efforts of Sardauna and what he has done for the North. He may not have, or he might not have declared free education like Chief Awolowo did in the West. But believe me, what we heard and what our seniors had was more than free education, because we were even paid to stay in school. And the school was the best part of the society, where every child was eager for the morning to dawn so that he could go to school. And the discipline of the period and the teachers and the kind of esprit de corps among the students created an atmosphere that was very unique to the time, and particularly anybody who can compare with what is obtained now. The foundation that Sir Ahmadu Bello laid down, in fact the legacies that he had left, were the ones that are still being shown to any person in this part of the world. The roads constructed during his time, they are still more durable than the one constructed now. The schools constructed during his time, they are still standing there. And not to talk about integrity, honesty, and accountability. When the Sardauna of Sokoto died, nobody could trace any foreign account, not to talk of, in fact, even domestic account. Indeed, the only house that could be said to be his was the traditional one in Sokoto. And those are the kind of leaders, and those are the kind of leaders that people will respect, that people will follow blindly, that people will want to protect. Those are the kind of leaders that God in His mercy will ensure that people respect them even after many years of their death. So that is why we want to bring back the value system, the spirit that Sir Ahmadu Bello has left for us. And that is the spirit of integrity, the spirit of honesty, the spirit of accountability. And those are the legacies that we will also not only make sure that it's entrenched in the new system, but that our children and our grandchildren also continue to adopt. So that if we have nothing else, at least we'll have a value system that the world will recognize, and that Nigeria will begin to regain its status and place in the world. And I believe that we should celebrate Chief Obafemi Awolowo, Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe, Alhaji Abubakar Tafawa Balewa, as well as Sir Ahmadu Bello. And that is why we are doing what we are doing, and we do pray that it will click with the Nigerian people.
It seems the long-awaited new era of the Sardauna's foundation has come to make this dream a reality.
Late Ahmadu Bello may his soul rest in peace. I think it's a household name, not only in northern Nigeria, but in the great country. And he is worthy of emulation. And so what the northern governors under the dynamic leadership of our own governor of the state are trying to do, I think it's very commendable, and we support them, and we will continue to support them and give them our support.
Certainly all of us, the elder generation I'm talking about, were the beneficiaries of Sardauna's action, and by extension the younger generation also the beneficiaries of Sardauna's legacy. This is a selfless leader who has applied himself to the emancipation of northern Nigeria and the empowerment of northern Nigerians in the scheme of things in Nigeria of those days. Certainly, I commend the efforts of the
generation now that are trying to set up a foundation in his name. It is an overdue, and I think all of us, we owe it to Sardauna to make sure that we wholeheartedly support this foundation and do whatever we can in order to immortalize such a bracelet.
If we believe to Sardauna there is anything like pure nose, to him nose is one nose. None is adulterated, but to the Europeans they wanted to divide, put a wedge, so that the unity which could have been built, which Sardauna built, would not have been there. So that is Ahmadu put very briefly, and he died for the people.
His legacies will ever remain indelible in our minds and should be preserved for even generations yet unborn. Let us not forget our differences. Let us understand our differences, and in so doing, build unity in our country.
I